Hey guys, Chris again from ClassicVWBugs.com, and in this video how-to series I'm going to speak to you about what to look out for before buying a bug. This is like a revamped version of what I did a few years ago. Of course, as we get older, we get a little more knowledge, we get a little more wisdom, and I have a few extra tidbits for you when it comes to looking out to buying a bug. I'm going to get into a little more detail this time around with different changes that went throughout the years, some other areas that I do find when I look at these cars, where they're rusting, where they're rotting, because that is usually the main concern when it comes to buying a bug. Also, you should brush up on, the certain years that you're looking to purchase. Also, you want to make sure that you're brush up on the changes that went throughout the years. If you Google Beetle changes through the years, you'll see that there's a few websites out there that'll give you a breakdown of different changes that happened, because you don't want to be buying, say, an early style bug and the guy's got high back seats in it or something like that, and he says, oh, it's original. And if you don't have the knowledge that they did change those seats in '68, then you're going to be in the lost there in the dark. So brush up on a little history. Also, go to collectorcarmarket.com. Get an idea of the value of these cars, and also that'll give you an idea of what you're willing to spend. There's been a misunderstanding out there on the internet that people think that I don't like anything after '67. That's not true. It's just when it comes to restoring the bug, the '68 and laters have not reached the value yet to equal the restoration costs. So it's not that I don't like the '68 and later, but '67 and earlier, of course, are my preference when it comes to getting more bang for your buck. So to that end, I'm going to be going around the car and showing you a lot of crucial areas once again to look out for. My big concern is body to chassis matching numbers. If the motor's an original to the car, that's a bonus. But keep in mind, over the years these motors were swapped out a lot. But you want to be abreast on what's correct, for your year. Just because, again, I see a lot of sellers online that say, oh, it's original miles, it's the original motor. Meanwhile, you get in a 55 car and it's got a 1600 motor in it from like a 71 bug. So you really got to keep an eye out for things like that. Also, on the collectorcarmarket.com value guides, that is for a car that's vintage stock. Now, we here at Classic VW Bugs stay vintage stock. That is my preference. And like I said, as long as the body and chassis match and the car looks correct, you're in good hands there. There are a lot of guys there that go the even extra mile. They make sure they got the correct numbered coils, the correct numbered the correct fuel pumps for that specific year, and front ends and beams like that. That's another bonus for me. I mean, that's great. But as long as the car looks vintage and stock and has the correct body to chassis numbers, then I think you're in good shape. Yeah. So if the car is customized, the collector car value website is good. The values are out the door then, when it comes to things like that. So keep an eye out. I think vintage stock is the way to go. I think the values of the cars go up every year when it's stock. If it's customized, heavily customized, be on a word of caution. That might be your preference, that's fine, but just understand that as the years go on, it's probably not going to, appreciate in value. Nobody's buying 1980s or 1990s customized bugs anymore. So, to that end, let me get around the camera. I'll stop blabbing and I'll start talking about what to look out for. Alright, so here we go. Here's my 1955 ragtop that we restored last year. Here's my good friend Lucky Larry's 1967 bug that he's got right here. And here's a 56 oval rag that we are restoring for a nice girl in Fargo, North Dakota. I have a 53 on the lift that we're restoring as well. That's the car that I'll probably use as an example of where the rust spots are. So let's take a peek. So here we go. Say you're coming up to the car, and for the first time you're going to see with your own eyes. The first place that I look is, of course, take a peek all around the car. Take a look at the paint. Make sure the paint is not bubbling. The crucial areas where these cars usually paint, you see a lot of bubbling a lot on the hood. You'll see paint bursting or bubbling around the seams here where the fender bolts on. Down on the lower parts of the fenders as well. Usually these areas you want to really take a look at. A lot of times too, I first check is these quarter panels back here. They usually start to bubble or they start to get really soft here, take a magnet with you when you go to these cars so you can start going around the car and see where there's plastic or where there's Bondo. As if there is any plastic or Bondo that was redone on the car prior to you coming, you know, the magnet is just not going to stick. So you want to keep an eye out for that. Also start taking a look under the wheel wells. You know, you want to take a look back here. You know, a lot of times here's where the heater channel is, and that heater channel, if it's soft or if it has some structural problems, a lot of times back here you can, you know, if you bring like maybe a screwdriver with you, a small implement, you can start poking around, and if you go right through it, a good chance that those heater channels are pretty soft or pretty rusted back there. But again, you want to take a look around the whole car and make sure, like I said here, you want you to look at some of the characteristics too. I always ask these guys, if I'm going on a long trip to go take a peek at one of these cars, they got to send me some pictures prior to me going out there, because I don't want to take a 2 to 3 hour trip and I see some things right off the bat in the pictures that I don't like. So for instance, a lot of times I'll see, you know, this is an early bug. It's got that W deck lid, and a W deck lid lasted until 57. But a lot of times you'll get these cars that are early like this one, and it doesn't have the W lid, it has a later lid on it. Also might have a different nose here. So those are things you can see right off the bat in the pictures. And that will concern me, because if the car's already painted, now if you got to get the correct lid, now you got to repaint that. And then for the body guide to match the paint, you're looking at almost repainting the car. So you want to keep an eye out on that. Brush up on taillights. Taillights have changed throughout the years, especially through the 50s, and then once they got into the 60s and things like that. So take a peek at that. Take a look at the chrome. A lot of times these guys, they buy cheaper chrome, and when they press the chrome on, you see indentations of their fingers in the chrome, because they just didn't install it correctly, or they bought the cheap Brazilian stuff that just always bends. I always get the stainless steel, so it's a lot stronger and you can press on and it's not going to bend. Take a look at things like that. Little things like that nag me. Also door handles, you know, check them to make sure they're not pitted, and you know, it's all going to have a factor, because a lot of times you just can't see these in the pictures. And not many people out there really like to take close-ups, or even have the thought of taking a close-up of things like this. I always take close-up pictures of these because they always pit. So you want to take a look at that, because then you're going to have to get new door handles. And if you have a 67 bug like the one over there, which is a one-year-only car, they had one-year-only features on it, and they have certain, you know, components like the door handles that are pitted, and you got to find that one-year-only feature on it, then you know that's something that might be a little difficult to find. So it's another thing to consider in cost. Like always, I open the doors, and you want to make sure these are your heater channels. One of the first things I take a look at. This is where the running board bolts into the side here, the rocker. Now, what you can do is, a lot of times they might not want you to really poke around here, but if you just, you know, pull the running board up and down, if you start to hear some cracking in there, or it sounds like leaves or celery crunching, then you got a good idea that maybe the bolts that are going through to hold the running board on into the heater channel, they're getting all rusted out, and they're moving, and they're just crunching around in there, and they're breaking a nice big hole inside there. So heater channels are a job to do. Speaking of heater channels, this 53 needs heater channels. As you can see, if you looked under the wheel well, there's a nice big hole at the back of the heat channel. Now, it wasn't there to begin with, but if you start poking around with an implement and you went through holes, and you went through this hole and it was soft, it's a good chance that underneath it is nice and soft. You can start poking around underneath with an implement. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that here. I'm pulling this away. This whole bottom of the channel is coming out. Now, to do heater channels is a job. And the best way to do it is to take the body off the chassis. You see the chassis down there, and here's the body up on the lift. We are expecting heater channels to be coming in for this car, so we're going to be cutting those in and getting brand new ones.